Kamal is a great tool for deploying web applications to the server of your preference, and it's an excellent choice to ship any kind of web project, especially side projects. However, it does have its shortcomings for people who want to begin using it for the first time. One of the main barriers to entry with Kamal is that it would require you to have access to a remote Docker container registry. When deploying your app using Kamal, it builds the image from the Docker file in your repository, pushes it to the remote container registry, and then pulls that image into the server where you're deploying. While services like GitHub, GitLab, and Amazon Web Services all offer container registries, each requires configuration, permission setup, and sometimes additional costs. Thankfully, starting from Kamal 2.8.0, you can now spin up a local Docker container registry on the machine that's deploying the app. If you set the registry server to localhost in the configuration file, Kamal creates a local registry using the official Docker registry image, along with port forwarding to allow the remote hosts to pull your app's image. Using the local registry in your system simplifies the Kamal setup and deployment process, since you won't need to configure a third-party service for storing Docker images. In this video, I'll show you how simple it is to begin using this functionality on an existing Kamal setup. This example uses a Ruby on Rails app called Airport Gap that's deployed to a Hetzner Cloud server using Kamal. If you're new with Kamal and want to know how I set it up in this application, I have a video about setting up Rails applications with Terraform and Kamal, so check it out on this channel. Currently, my Kamal configuration for this application uses the GitHub Container Registry service to store the built Docker images for deployment. This configuration requires a valid access token in the user's or organization's GitHub account to authenticate to the container registry and set it up in the Kamal registry password environment variable. Creating the access token just takes a couple minutes to do, but it's still an extra step that you need to take before using Kamal. There's also some additional management needed since it's a sensitive piece of information that you need to keep secure. On top of that, some container registries set an expiration date for these tokens, which seem to expire at the most inopportune time. So let's update this configuration to begin using a local container registry instead. Switching from a remote registry to a local one couldn't be simpler. First, let's make sure to update Kamal to version 2.8.0 or later. In the Airport Gap app, the repository's gem file includes Kamal as a dependency, so I'll update it to grab the latest version, which is version 2.8.2 as of this recording, and I'll run bundle install. After setting up the latest version of Kamal, all you need to do in the config/deploy.yaml configuration file is update the registry section to change the server setting to use localhost instead of the remote container registry and an available port on your system. In this example, I'll use port 5555, and I'll also remove the username and the password credentials since they won't be needed anymore. This change tells Kamal to spin up a local registry on port 5555, which it uses to push and pull images automatically via SSH. As explained earlier in the video, Kamal will push your app's image to this local registry after it's built, and then establishes an SSH connection to open the registry's port and allow the remote servers to pull the image. This entire process happens automatically and works the same as if you were using a remote registry as before. After updating the configuration, you can continue using Kamal to deploy as usual. Let's test this out by running Kamal deploy and deploy the latest version of the app. During the process, you'll see some messages showing the local Docker registry spinning up and Kamal using it to push the image and have it pulled from the remote host. Besides that, everything else will work the same as before. With these simple changes, you can now avoid dealing with external services for storing your app's Docker images just for deployments. While using the local registry makes using Kamal even simpler, there are still some cases where you might consider using a remote container registry instead of a local one. One reason to use a remote registry is when you need consistency and speed when deploying to new servers. You might need to deploy the app on a new server after a deployment. When using the local registry, you lose the image used to deploy to your older servers. That means you'll need to rebuild the image and redeploy to both the old and new servers if you want to ensure consistency across the board. Using a remote registry helps avoid inconsistencies and speeds up deployments since you and your team can skip the rebuild and use existing images instead. Another reason to use a remote registry is if you have slow or capped internet connectivity. When deploying using the local registry, the remote servers pull the Docker image from your system. The upload speed of your internet connection determines how fast your deployments will take. Many internet providers only offer slow upload speeds or place caps on the amount of data you can transfer, which make deployments from the local registry take longer than necessary or even fail, especially if you're deploying to multiple servers. With a remote registry, you just need to push the image once to have it deployed to all your servers, reducing the reliance on your internet connection. Finally, another reason to consider using a remote registry is if you need to scan your images for security. Some container registry services, such as Docker Hub, can scan your images and detect security vulnerabilities automatically. These automated processes help alert you and your team of potential issues as soon as you deploy. Using the local registry for deployments won't provide these services out of the box, so you need to make sure that your Docker images pass any security checks before deploying to production. So remote container registries will still have their place, especially if you're working in a team environment or you have limits with your internet connection. But for most, you'll appreciate being able to bypass the additional setup to get up and running with Kamal. If you found this video useful and you want to continue improving your software development processes, make sure to subscribe to this channel to watch more videos that help teams ship their code confidently, from development to testing to deployment. You can also check my website for a written version of this video, along with more in-depth articles covering Rails, testing, DevOps, and other software engineering topics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.